Another adventure in the Bobcat 453 series, saga, expedition, whatever you'd like to call it. I want to work under my cab. I can't because my pin that goes back here and is supposed to latch into this hole is not present. So the cab won't hold up, and I keep having to use a piece of wood, and I want to rectify that. To tilt the cab on the 453, the engine compartment door has to be open. All right, and this is what I'm starting with as a solution for my cab pin. This is a T-handle I made. It's made out of 1/2 inch stock. Need to cut one side of this off. So we do that. All right, cut one side of it off. Now I want to make sure it goes through my hole okay. All right, put it in there. I've got to cut that so that it can rotate and be held by this bracket. After a rough measure, I'm going to make this 1 3/4 inches from here to the black line there. Cut that off, and then if it's still too long, we'll reduce it. But we don't want to cut too much off from the very get-go. That is just stupid. As you can see, 1 3/4 inches too long. All right, there's my pin, and it rotates. So this will be the retracted position, which, as you can see, won't interfere. And then, so now what I need is, in this retracted position right here, I need to know my limits inside here. All right, I lifted the cab, and right now what is stopping the cab from going back is this shock has reached its end. And this pin that I'm going to use isn't doing anything. So I need to close this hole up. Close that hole up so that pin goes in there, somewhere in there, about right there. With the pin installed, I've made 2 sets of marks. One with it extended, one with it retracted. Now, based on that, I need to figure out where to drill my hole, what kind of spring I need. I'm going to need a couple washers. Yep. Got to figure this out. All right, using my marks, I put a hole in it so I can put my cotter pin through. All right, I've cut a piece of metal, and it's in there pretty good, so I got to prep the edges so that I can weld it properly. And then I'm also using a piece of heavy plastic behind this, because when I start welding, there's a fuel tank right there. All right, got it cleaned up, fit. Got a little gap that I need to fill up, but got a few, but I'll take care of those. All right, let's get the welder out here and start tacking. I've added the metal, and I've got it partially welded. I tried to weld it with the cab in place. I couldn't really get to it very well, so it looks kind of bad, but I couldn't get to this at all, and I don't want to leave that. So I've taken the U-bolts loose, lifted the cab up. I've got it held right here, but this is the fuel tank, and I need to weld here, so I don't want to do that with this fuel tank exposed. So I need to cover this fuel tank. So I'll cover the fuel tank, then I'll do this weld. I'm not showing the welding because if you can weld, you don't need me to show you how to do it, and because I'm not the great welder. So let's get this done. All right, I got a spring. It's not in there, of course, but the holes that the shaft is going through are big enough that the spring can go through it also. So I'm going to use 2 galvanized washers, but I got to cut them. What I'm saying is right here, the gap's too small for the washer, so I got to cut a edge off the washer. So we're going to do that. Got it mounted in the vise, and I'll use a bandsaw to cut it. Got those cut. I've got them cut, but I want to see if they'll... Let me set one of them down. Will they fit in between without having to cut any off the top? And it looks like... Oop, and I dropped it. That's okay, I had to get it out of there. Anyway, it looks like it'll fit. Alright, this is how long the piece is. It's right there at the 3-inch mark. It goes all the way to 8 5/16 or 8 1/2. So that's 5 1/2 inches. Started at the 3 again. From the 3-inch mark to the 4 3/4. So that's 1 3/4 there. But the hole, how far down is the hole? The hole is 1 5/8. We're at 6. It's 1 5/8 down. So that hole is 1 5/8 from the end of the shaft. There you go. There's the dimensions on that, and this is 1/2 inch stock. I do want to show you this. I want to show you this, that the hole is at a weird angle to the shaft. I did that because it's so close to the bottom, I don't want any interference when I turn it. Because when I operate it, it'll rotate like this, and the hole will come up where there's more area, not less. So hopefully that'll work okay. All right, there's the parts I'm going to use to install that. We're going to use washer, spring, washer, then cotter pin. That's how it's going to go on. All right, got the shaft in there. Just started here a little bit. We're going to put a washer on. All right, there's one washer. All right, I had to compress my spring, slide my washer in there, which you can't really see, but my washer's in there. So as I got that in there, now I can slide this back and forth. I can see where my spring hole is. So I've got a small screwdriver shoved in there, and I'm pushing the, can't get the camera in there to show you, but I'm pushing the washer with the screwdriver, and it allowed me to drop that cotter pin in there. All right, got the cotter pin bent, back in the fully retracted position. Got that spring compressed almost all the way. You can release it to right here. And it hits it, but not a lot. And it just barely gets into the hole. But then you can release it all the way, and the cotter pin keeps it going from going but so far. So then when it operates, I'll have to see how high this comes up to see if the arms can come up without interfering with that, so that I can latch the safety device in place. All right, I've got the cab down. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from here up and from here out this way as much as I can with the bandsaw. Give me another piece of metal. Got the piece welded in, got it primed and painted. I'm going to give this a few minutes to dry. After it dries, I'm going to put the cab back down, tilt it back, mark my hole, and drill me a hole, and that should be it. All right, as you can see, I got the cab on. I got the pin extended right here. have the pin extended. It's making contact with the metal. Since using a pin is really not practical, I'm going to try to scribe it. All right, let's lower it down and see what I got. I want to show you this. There's where I marked my hole. All right, gonna drill that hole. So there's my pin extended. And there it is in the hole. So now, I have to worry about my cab falling on me. I'm rocking it. It's nice and steady. I'm not at the limit of my shot tube, so it's good. Now I did set that hole a little far back because I wanted to be able to access my connectors and my fuel tank and be able to get my fuel tank out if the need ever arises. So there you go. Cab's up. And I was tethering it for safety just in case the hole didn't line up. All right. Now let's see if I can let it down easily. All right, you can see I've got the cab down. You can see my pin is retracted. I'm going to extend it. Take the tension off of my spring, and the next time I lift the cab up, it'll be able to go into the hole without much effort. There you go. That's the way I did it. Gonna save me a lot of headache in the future. Give me a like. I don't really need to subscribe, but a subscribe would help. And definitely don't hit the notification bell. You don't need to know every time I post something. All right.